danger is what I want to say, Mark. I feel like.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Are we ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the first meeting of 2021. It's January 11th. Please note that in accordance with the emergency orders announced by Governor Charlie Baker, this select board meeting will not be open to the public for physical attendance, and the select board members are meeting online via Zoom web conference. This meeting is being live streamed, recorded, and cable broadcasted by the Easton Community Access Television, Comcast 98, Verizon 23, and on ECAT's website at www.eastoncat.org. If you're watching this at home and you have a question or a comment, you can email mblanchard@easton.ma.us or pose your question in the Q&A feature of the Zoom portal. Please remember to include your name and your street address for our minutes. At this time, I'd like to ask each of the select board members to state their name to ensure we have a quorum.
Greg Barger.
Tom Broussard.
Chuck King.
Mark Lamb.
And Dottie Fulgenetti. Great. Welcome, everyone. So our first item is a timed item for the Municipal Building Committee appointment. I believe there is one person that I'm trying to see. So it doesn't look like any of the candidates. I know that only one person was going to be, oh, there he is.
Oh, I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Joseph, thanks for being here tonight, and we're excited that you're interested in serving on the Municipal Building Committee. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to serve on that committee?
Sure. Well, I grew up in Easton. Obviously still live here. I have 3 kids in the school, 3 different schools, Parkview, Arrow, and a high school. My job day to day is I work on maintenance, construction projects, capital operating budgets, ongoing maintenance, basically everything that kind of coincides with this committee. So I think I'd be a really good fit for it.
Terrific. Any questions from the board members, starting with you, Craig?
I don't have any questions. I'm just impressed with the resume, Joe. Thank you for applying.
Thank you.
Agreed. I very much appreciate you applying, Mr. Falone. I do have a question in terms of the size of the projects. What size projects and what type of budget size do you deal with while you're at Stonehill?
No set numbers, but I deal with smaller ones right up to well over $1 million.
Right.
2 new buildings that just went up the last couple of years, I was involved in those. And so
I think that's helpful. I think, you have a lot of great experience and understanding that you can opine not just on small projects, but very large, complex projects, I think is an important aspect. That was my main question, Dottie. Thank you.
Terrific. Chuck?
Hi, Mr. Falone. I'm happy also that you applied, and I appreciate your resume. I think I know the answer to this, but I'll just, I think it's would be in the negative that you don't anticipate having your work at Stonehill in municipal contracts interfering with Easton Town kind of events, contracts, do you?
No, I thought of that, and I don't think it will be an issue whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Dot.
Great. Mark?
Thank you, Dottie. Thank you, Mr. Falone. Associate Director of Facilities Operations for Stonehill College. I think, I know what that involves. I work with Bruce Boyer on economic development, and you guys have a lot on your plate, and what you manage on a day-to-day basis and annual basis is incredible. Coupled with your intimate knowledge of the town and its buildings and having been here, I'm guessing, for 40-something years, I think you're a perfect candidate. So
thank you.
You have my support.
I agree. And I think that, your licenses and professional certifications speak for themselves. And, we're always really excited to see a new face. At these boards and committees, we have a lot of work that we do that is moved forward by dedicated people in the community. So every time we see somebody new that's willing to throw their hat in the ring, we're very excited for that. So
I look forward to it.
Connor?
If I could just add, I normally don't, in board applicants, but Joe, it's hard to recognize you without your mask, but I think you're also being very modest with the board. Joe worked directly with us on planning for the town meetings that we've had to stage at Stonehill, at the sports complex during COVID, and was a great partner for us and worked hand in glove with our facilities people. So you buried the lead on that. I don't think you needed to add it in there. Your qualifications more than speak for themselves, but I just thought I would say thank you while you were here for your work.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Terrific.
Connor, for bringing that up.
And one question I do want to ask is how to correctly pronounce your last name. So when we do the vote, I
Question,
don't
Dottie.
say that wrong.
It's Filoni.
Baloney. Okay, great.
All right.
All right. Well, if there's no further questions, if somebody would like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Filoni to the Municipal Buildings Committee.
So
And
moved, Barger.
is there a date
Second.
on this?
Broussard?
Hold on one second.
Yes, term to expire June 30th, 2023.
All right. So that's Barger, Broussard, and the roll call vote, Craig?
Barger, Filoni.
Broussard, Filoni.
King Filoni.
Lamb Filoni.
And full Janetti Filoni. So congratulations. We're really excited to have you on board, and the town clerk's office will be reaching out to you with instructions on the next steps and getting sworn in and things like that.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, next we have a cultural council appointment. Stephanie Power, I believe I saw her in the attendee list.
Hello,
Hi, Stephanie, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for volunteering to serve on the cultural council. And if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what interested you in that committee.
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm Stephanie Power. My maiden name is Quinones Malay. So I was actually born in Puerto Rico, and then I moved to upstate New York, to a really small town. And growing up, the importance of community was a big deal for me. I have always been very active in communities, but ever since I moved to Boston and then now Easton, which I've only been an Easton resident since September, so I'm relatively new, but I realized just the importance of getting involved. And to tell you a little bit about my background, I studied art, specifically visual media, for undergrad at RIT in Rochester, New York. And then I recently received my master's degree in design innovation at Mass Art. And I've worked for various companies in the Boston area, working as a designer and art director. And now, for the past year and a half, I've actually taught a few classes at Stonehill as a design professor.
That's terrific.
Mhm.
Great. Well, the Cultural Council is a really exciting committee, and Easton is one of the few communities that actually have a designated cultural district. So we really care about the arts and culture in our town. And the Cultural Council reviews applications for funding requests. So to have actual artists on that committee that really understand the work is really a great addition for us. And let me just go around and see if anyone has any questions. Craig?
Oh, I'm just impressed with the with your resume. And welcome to Easton, and thanks for applying.
Thank you. Yeah, I love it here so far. My husband grew up here. So it's been just a pleasure to move in and just really see what Easton has to offer.
Excellent.
Great. Tom?
I would just say thank you very much. Congratulations on your master's degree, and appreciate you getting involved in our great town. It's people like you that volunteer time and effort that really help make it what it really is. So thank you in advance for all your efforts.
Chuck?
I don't have anything to add except to thank you, Ms. Power, again for volunteering.
Thanks.
And Mark?
The same. Thank you. Welcome. Thanks for stepping up to the plate. I think you'll be very happy with the decision.
Mhm.
So again, it's great to see new faces. I'm so happy when people come forward to volunteer, new perspectives. So thank you very much. We know that people are busy now, so anytime that they can give to the boards and committees are really terrific. So with that said, if somebody'd like to nominate Stephanie,
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
so Barger, Broussard, and then a roll call vote.
Barger, Power.
Broussard, Power.
King Power.
Lamb Power.
And full Janetti Power. So congratulations, Stephanie. The town clerk's office will reach out to you with the next set of instructions and how you get sworn in and so forth. So we look forward to seeing you again.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Stephanie.
Bye,
Have a
Stephanie.
good night.
You too.
Okay, next on the agenda is a discussion and a vote, Stonehill funds for the Economic Development Council. Mark, if you want to talk to us a little bit about that and some of the things that the council is doing.
Sure. To anybody who's at home watching, I'm on the Economic Development Council with Dottie. I'm the chair, and we're working with largely the Easton Chamber of Commerce, but anybody's allowed, if you're a business owner in town, to be part of it. And we're working on campaigns to promote local business by we're calling it, using the hashtag Easton Outside. So it's to promote business outside in a safe, healthy, distant manner. Let people know that business is still operational in the winter months. That these businesses do need support from the community. So it's kind of an effort where all these businesses have come together and kind of created a think tank of sorts, because I think its original the purpose of the original meeting, we actually never went down that path. It was just all the great ideas that people were throwing out there. And so we're all supporting each other. And, I was talking to Neil Levine the other day at McGuire's, and there is silver lining in this pandemic and with this business. And there's something I see in Easton that I've never seen before. And it's the amount of support businesses are extending to their, somebody they might call competition is now not their competition. It's, a rising tide rises all boats mentality. And it's really incredible to see this come to life. So, the Easton Economic Development Council and the Chamber are working together. And it's also really important to note that even if you're not part of the Chamber, you're welcome to participate in this. This has to be an effort that serves everyone equally. You just have to participate, or get yourself plugged in a little bit. So it was mentioned. Dottie had brought to my attention an idea of using some of the Stonehill funds. We get a gift every year from Stonehill, and using some funds from that gift to for this campaign, because it will come with some costs, some small costs, like a sign or a banner, some sort of marketing material for them to use in that manner. So what we're asking for in this vote is for those funds to be allocated for that use for this council to support all business in town. And it's important to note also that these businesses are the ones who are making the decisions in conjunction with economic development. So it's this great think tank of businesses coming together.
That's terrific. And, when we try to allocate some of the Stonehill gift, we try to match it up with some of the things. We just voted to give some money to the Human Rights Committee because those issues were really important to the core culture of Stonehill and things that they cared about. And with the unveiling of their new business school last year, they've made a tremendous investment on campus and therefore in our town, and local business is really important to them also. So I think that lines up with some of the things that they care about is the success of the small businesses in the community, and for making some of that investment, to help with the marketing of the Easton Outside campaign, I think is a really good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how much money were you thinking about, Mark?
$1,000. That would be a good place to start. I mean, it's January. We got to get things in gear, and we have 4 or 5 months of inclement weather, cold weather, where we have to really support these businesses. So I'm hoping that'll cover everything.
Okay, terrific. Any comments from anyone else on the board or questions?
I personally think it's a terrific idea, Mark, and I'm glad you brought it up. I'm always looking for ways in which to utilize some of those resources to improve our town. So
I have to thank Dottie too, really largely, mostly.
Well, we're working pretty closely together on the Economic Development Council, and Mark has been chair for a few months now, and he's doing an incredible job. So that's one of the things that honestly I really love about this board and working with this team is that everybody lifts each other up, tries to help each other be successful, and that's why we're doing such a great job. So for what it's worth. Tom?
Just a question, how much unused or unallocated funds do we have remaining from that Stonehill allocation?
Sure. I don't have the exact number from prior years remaining funds, but if you'll recall, typically the annual gift is broken into 2 pieces, and there's 20,000 unallocated out of the gate, and so you directed is a better word, 800 to the Human Rights Committee, and that's all that you've used so far. So this will move another 1,000. So you're still, 18,000 plus from this year's gift, and there was funds remaining from other ones. We do hold on to those as a source that the board can be, unlike most of our funding, be somewhat flexible with. So about 18 from this year's gift.
The only reason I would ask is I defer to Mark and Dottie for being close to the situation, but if more than $1,000 would be helpful, I agree with Mark's assessment. I think that it's going to be incredibly difficult for our local businesses and certainly the restaurants in this winter. And I know that many of them seem to always find a new way to get past a breaking point, but I would be amenable to more than 1,000 if we felt it would do good and be even more supportive to what you're trying to accomplish.
I think, thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. I think right now the 1,000 will cover what we're aiming for. That is absolutely not to say in 3 or 4 months, I might be right back here asking for something, some funds for something else, because this is an ongoing thing. So, things will be changing, but thank you for that support.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. Thank you both.
Chuck, any comments or questions? All right, would somebody like to make a motion?
so moved. Barger.
I'll defer to Mr. Lamb, given his effort and engagement on this.
Second, Lamb.
So that's a motion to transfer $1,000 from the Stonehill gift to the Economic Development Department for use on this campaign. So Craig and Mark, and a roll call vote. Craig?
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
Lamb, yes.
You did, Chuck?
King, yes?
Lamb, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you
And
all.
keep us posted. From time to time throughout the year, we usually bring some boards and committees forward to talk about what they've done. So, it'll be great to get an update maybe in a couple of months. And one thing that you might not know, Mark, I'm not really sure if I told you this, but every year the town has an annual report, and the chairs of the boards and committees write a summary of what has happened for the year. So you're up.
Reminded me of that like every month, just letting you know.
Just wanted to slip that one in,
Yeah.
Mark.
Just in case you forgot, you're going to be writing a report. Yeah.
That's right.
I think it's the 6th time, but that's okay.
It makes me happy. All right, great. Well, that's terrific. And I'm sure that that money will go to good use for that campaign. So terrific. The next up is a discussion and vote to appoint a select board representative to the Age Friendly Advisory Committee. We had just appointed committee members to that group, and we usually have a select board representative to be a part of it, to help guide that through. It's things run smoother sometimes because the select board has a lot of knowledge on how to get things done appropriately. So I didn't know if there was somebody on the board that wanted to be on that. I think they're probably going to meet during the day for like an hour a month. So, I don't know if that makes a difference. And,
I'll just be honest.
Comment?
I would love to, but I am completely tapped out. I'm spread thin in And so I am going to have to pass, but it's not for lack of want. It's just time.
Sure.
Todd,
I
I'd be
think-
happy to serve on that committee.
Okay. And Craig, Tom?
I was going to suggest Dottie, but I'd be happy to support Charles. No,
I would be happy to support Mr. King as well.
Thank you.
Okay, and I will too. And I'll probably go to the meetings too, because I do have an interest in that. And so, you know, this is another one of those committees where the more people, the better. So people at home that are interested in this, if you weren't appointed to the committee, keep an eye out for the agendas or reach out to us and we'll let you know when the meetings are, because the more ideas that you can get for these age-friendly initiatives, the better. So,
Sure.
so thank you. So somebody like to nominate Chuck and second Chuck, and then we'll do the vote.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Barger, Broussard,
Barger, King.
Broussard, King.
King.
Lamb King.
and full Janetti King. Great, thank you. Next, we have a contract award for inspectional services for a Liberty Chevrolet 2021 Chevrolet Silverado pickup truck.
Sure. So attached in your packet, there is a memo and a corresponding contract from the building commissioner, Kevin Greiner, for a 2021 Chevy Silverado pickup, which will just be an inspectional vehicle for the inspectional services department. This is part of their 2021 capital request. It was deferred in the spring. It's actually been deferred for a few years, but was deferred again in the spring, but it was just funded in November. And so funds are appropriated, and I would recommend award.
Any questions?
No.
Would somebody like to make a motion to award the contract for inspectional services vehicle to Liberty Chevrolet in the amount of, I'll say $30,000 just to round it up?
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
That's Barger, Broussard,
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
and full Janetti, yes. Terrific. Next is a vote to accept a gift to the police department by Folan Waterproofing and Construction Company.
Sure. Attached in the board's packet, there's two memos. One is from Chief Sullivan to me and the board explaining the donation and requesting its acceptance. The other is a thank you letter that the chief has already sent to the business. This is a $500 donation to the department by Folan, and as with any donation to a municipal department, the select board needs to vote to accept it. The chief is asking, and I am recommending that the board vote to accept this gift to be deposited into the police donation account for future use by the department.
Terrific. I feel like I've seen their name come up before with some generous contributions. So
They have, and they have one from the fire department that we learned of after we posted the agenda. So you'll see that again in a couple of weeks. So they do typically donate to police and fire, and then the board accepts those almost annually. So the departments and myself, and I'm sure the board are very appreciative of their support of the first responders.
we're very grateful.
Definitely.
All right. Would somebody like to make a motion to accept the gift?
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard with appreciation.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes. Thank you.
Lamb, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. And thanks again to the Folan Waterproofing and Construction Company. Next, we are ready for the standing update for COVID response in Easton. Connor.
Sure. So tonight we have a little bit more information than normal, which I think is probably a good thing. I will go through my normal kind of summary of the situation for the board of the public, but then I will ask the Fire Chief Kevin Partridge and the Director of Health and Community Services, Kristen Kennedy, to join me to give a more specific update about some of the work that we're now doing on the local level as we enter into the hopefully ending chapters of this pandemic, including vaccination. So without further ado, I will get started on the kind of data aspect of that, and then we'll pull the chief and director in. Sorry. Here we go. As we have been doing now for 10 months, each of your meetings, I give an update to the board on the Easton Emergency Management Association's ongoing assessment and planning and response to the COVID-19 pandemic, starting with a look at where things stand for the nation, and then drilling down to more granular levels with the state and then Easton. Unfortunately, the circumstances of the United States continue to be very bad. As of today, we're still the epicenter of a global pandemic. We're nearing 22.5 million cumulative cases. The amount of new cases being confirmed, particularly in the fall and post-Thanksgiving weeks, is just astonishing. If you look, we barely passed 9 million cumulative in November, and now we're at 22.5, less than just about 10 weeks later. So it's astonishing. We're nearing 375,000 lives lost in the United States in less than a year since the first confirmed death, I believe. The 7-day average right now is just shy of 250,000 new cases in the country every single day. The 7-day rolling average of fatalities in the United States is more than 3,200 folks per day. And the positivity rate has skyrocketed, has almost doubled recently. The nationwide positivity rate is now 15%. If you look, I don't know where the floating heads are for you, but if they're in your upper right corner, you may want to move them. Cases in the United States continue to trend up. A couple of dips here and there, but the general trajectory is upward. The rolling average daily case confirmation for COVID in America in mid-September was about 30,000 a day. And we are now at more than 8 times that, at 244,000 new cases a day on average being confirmed. I always have a caveat here. You don't necessarily want to compare new cases being confirmed today to what we saw in March and April because testing was so scarce back then. But you can look at other things that are more of a controlled variable, like hospitalizations. We peaked in the 60,000-ish range in the spring and summer for the surges, and we are now more than double that. We have about 132,000 Americans in hospitals around the country, which is almost a 5-fold increase from the rate of hospitalization in America around Labor Day. This is what this graph looked like last we met, right before Christmas. So back then, 217,000 cases a day. Now we're at nearly 250,000. Right before Christmas, 114,000 people were in the hospital, and now it is 132,000. So it's really, you start feeling numb to these things to a certain extent when you look at it in the form of graphs and charts, but the scale of human tragedy is difficult to overstate. A data aggregator we've relied on throughout this, COVID exit strategy, which pulled from publicly available information from the CDC, is actually now consolidated with a new website called COVID Act Now. So their map looks slightly different than the ones for statewide spread, but we used to use this now, uses 3 metrics. It looks at the daily new cases, the infection rate, and the positivity rate of each state. And it's really just a question of what shade of deep red every single state is. Obviously, the United States is in a moment of crisis as far as the pandemic. So in Massachusetts, cumulatively, we're at 413,000 cases. We're nearing 13,000 residents of the Commonwealth having died. The 2-week daily incidence per 100,000 of the state is at 61. The 7-day average test positive rate in Massachusetts is 7.2. You may recall prior to the holiday surge, those figures for the daily incidence per 100,000 were in the single digits. The test positive rate was frequently in some communities, including here, below 2%. If you look at the Johns Hopkins University data, this is the current trend in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Much like in the nation, it is not a good one. The average daily cases in Massachusetts have grown rapidly since October 1st. On that day, we confirmed 754 cases, and now we've had those numbers breach 7,000 a day. The average daily cases in Massachusetts have increased more than fivefold since the 1st of November. Hospitalization rates in Massachusetts have increased almost 7 times what they were at Labor Day. Thankfully, I haven't looked at today's data, but we were finally starting to see hospitalization slowly tick down in the past few days. I hope that trend continues in Massachusetts. As unfortunate as it is for over 2,000 residents of the state to be in the hospital right now, it's still not as severe as what we did see in the spring here. Again, this is just comparing what we looked at last we met. So it looked like a kind of shocking peak and plateau back then on a scale of looking at about 5,300, and now we're looking at a scale that reaches 9,000. And since then, 300 people have been hospitalized. Commonwealth has rolled out a variety of efforts to combat this. Governor Baker, I can't put my finger on the exact day, I believe it was shortly after our last meeting, announced a variety of restrictions and a phase 3 rollback with new capacity restrictions for certain business types that has now been extended to at least January 24th. Other restrictions for timing and capacity from November are still in effect. The travel prohibition is still, order is still in effect. Field hospitals, 2 of them have now been erected and they are both being used. And thankfully we are now entering the first stage of 3 phases that the Commonwealth has identified for rolling out the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. So just for a reminder for the public, the vaccine timeline is driven by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're currently in January. Well, the Commonwealth is identified as phase 1. We will head into phase 2 at some point, maybe mid-February. And there will be a 3rd phase where vaccines will be available for the general public later in April. But we're going to touch on that a little bit more later in this presentation with the chief and director. So moving into where the state of affairs rests in the town of Easton. So this is the map from WBUR, which takes the data from the Commonwealth's data exports and shows the risk level in every community. So Easton's circled in red there. We are surrounded in an ocean of red that extends basically from New Bedford on the South Shore all the way to the New Hampshire border, almost uninterrupted. This was from our last meeting. As you could see, that it is worsening, mirroring the trend we're seeing across the board. More than 300 cases of COVID have been confirmed in Easton since we last met. We were at 721 before Christmas for the entire duration of the pandemic, and in the few weeks since then, we've almost increased by 50%. At the end of last year, we had just shy of 50 fatalities. This chart shows a biweekly case growth in Easton and really kind of visually depicts the surge that we are seeing here along with all of our neighbors and fellow Americans. The biweekly case growth in Easton is at the highest point that it's been yet. We crossed a new threshold, which was 200 cases in 1 2-week period. Most recently, the average biweekly case growth in October was 15 and a quarter. So we're more than 10 times that now. The average biweekly case growth in the month of December was in the 120s. And again, as I just stated, the first biweekly period of January is 200. And this is what health experts warned that they were fearful of, that they would see large surges in the wake of Thanksgiving and Christmas and the winter holidays and New Year's. And so while a lot of TSA information and things like that showed that a lot of folks did change their behaviors, that less people traveled this year than in prior years, there were still many millions of people who did travel and did meet with family and go to events. And I think we're seeing that now everywhere around the country. Our test positive rate, which we always noted once Stonehill sent their students home for the winter break, would increase by virtue of that kind of surveillance asymptomatic test pool coming out of Easton's numbers. Our test rate is now higher than the Commonwealth's average. So we are peaking, I think we're near 8.5% positive, which is not good, not where we want to be. The state average is nearing 8% as well. This is what the actual raw data that feeds into a lot of these charts are. I always worry one day Tom's going to screenshot it and go back and fact check my visualizations. But joking aside, this is a serious place to be. If you look in the summer, August, September, and October, it took us from August 12th to the beginning of November to go from 300 to 400 cases. And as I just said before, we've added 300 since your last meeting. So unfortunately, we're now seeing the experience that many others have been living. You know, this really, really, I hope, illustrates the importance to people that although vaccines are now finally rolling out and we're starting to do the work to prepare for that, it now is not the time to let your guard up. You know, everyone thinks that their bubble is the one safe bubble that's somehow safe from this, but that's really not how it works. And if you're indoors with other people and you don't have masks on, you are at risk. So people really need to continue to do the right things, wear their masks, keep their distance, and limit unnecessary gatherings as we continue to fight this. So I'm going to invite Fire Chief Kevin Partridge and Director of Health and Community Services Kristen Kennedy to come into the panel if they are not yet already for the next portion of this presentation. Oh,
Kristen.
Kristen.
Hello.
I think we have Chief Partridge, but Chief, we don't have video feed.
He's camera shy tonight.
Oh, that's not the...
That's not... Then we have the wrong chief.
We'll just give the chief one moment.
He better get here to defend himself.
That was funny.
Well, I guess while we have a little pause here, I do want to remind we do have a few people in the attendees list. So if you do have questions about the presentation, make sure that you put a question in the Q&A and we will answer that question.
Mike, it seems like there's a second Kevin Partridge in the attendees. Could you move that one as well?
We need the real Kevin Partridge.
Kevin Partridge is going to have to reboot his system or call in on his cell phone. Should we continue, Connor, and see if he's able to join, or?
If you'd like, perhaps maybe the board would like to, I guess you have some other business to get to besides notes. So we can get started, and if the chief can join us successfully, he will hop in. And if not, then Kristen and I will fill in. So before I get into the content here, I do want to just take a quick moment. I don't know when the last time we brought Director Kennedy and Chief Partridge into a meeting. Oh, I'm seeing him connecting. There he is. So Solutions, you're muted.
Sorry about that. My computer keeps kicking me out, so I'm on my phone right now.
Ready.
Okay.
So it's been a while, I think, since I have brought the chief and Director Kennedy with me for one of his presentations. And so one of the first things I want to do is thank both of them for how tireless their efforts have been for going on almost a full year now in fighting the pandemic. I really cannot speak highly enough of how much they have been working around the clock through the holidays on this fight, and particularly about two initiatives we're going to talk about tonight that I'm excited about and I think are some bright spots in what has been a pretty dark time, and I'm very proud of their work on this, as well as that of Assistant Town Administrator Blanchard. He'll be taking point on a bit of this presentation, and as someone who was the Assistant Town Administrator myself, what feels like 3 lifetimes ago, that's a position that is so critical, that often operates out of the limelight, and is such an important force multiplier for us to be able to quickly launch initiatives like this when there's items that are part of an operational plan that no one really knows whose responsibility it is. It almost always gets given to the assistant town administrator, and the expectation is they figure it out or find someone who can. And Mike's been wonderful there. So I can't thank Kevin, Kristen, and Mike enough. I just wanted to start with that. And tonight we are happy to present phase 1 vaccination for first responder update, as well as to announce a community drive-through test site pilot that we're launching this Saturday at the fire department. So tonight, this presentation is going to cover a handful of topics. We're going to give a brief summary of the current Massachusetts COVID-19 vaccination plan and its phases. We're going to cover what the town of Easton's role thus far is in phase 1 with vaccinating first responders. We'll touch on what we do and still do not know about phase 2 and 3 of the Commonwealth's vaccination plan, how we will communicate new information to the public about those vaccination phases as we come into possession of that information, what we are doing to prepare ourselves from an emergency response and public health perspective, despite lacking formal guidance on phase 2 and 3 from the state at this point, and as well as touching on the drive-through COVID test site that we're offering for all Easton residents who register this weekend. So at this point, if I could turn it over to Director Kennedy to just kind of give a summary of the Commonwealth's vaccine rollout plan.
So thank you, Connor. As we all know, the vaccine is flowing. It's not flowing as rapidly as we had all hoped, but it is coming. I think there's a lot of comfort as we look at this chart and we see how we are actually moving systemically right through the different phases and the different categories. And each category is being looked at as its own individual category that needs its own individual and tailored plan. As we look at the clinical and non-clinical healthcare workers, their vaccines were delivered at the facilities where they work. As we move to long-term care facilities, rest homes, and assisted livings, the state was able to tap into an existing program and work with CVS and Walgreens to have the vaccines delivered by those entities directly in the long-term care facilities. As one of our long-term care facilities, I have to say, has done a wonderful job educating their staff and is actually seeing a high percentage of their staff that are stepping up and voluntarily taking the vaccine. But as much of what we've seen through this pandemic, things are constantly evolving and constantly changing, and we're constantly being asked to do things with very little notice. In preparing for tonight, I was going back, and it was actually less than a month ago, the week of December 18th, that Secretary Sutters announced that we were going to be moving to the first responders. And here we are, holidays and all, actually positioned to execute, which I think is pretty remarkable and says a lot about our team and our team's ability to think and work together. As we move through the next steps, we'll be moving into the congregate care settings, then into home-based healthcare workers, and then onto healthcare workers doing non-COVID facing care. The state is updating their website twice a week. These categories and priorities are changing. on a routine basis, enough so that they have announced they will be updating the flow on Tuesdays and Thursdays after 5 p.m. One of the changes that we've seen already is the elevation of individuals who are over the age of 75 in their priority status in phase 2. So this is something that the Commonwealth and the governor's advisors are looking at as on an ongoing basis and are making adjustments as need be. Again, these are estimates. And again, we don't really know what the distribution channels are going to be for some of these groups as we work through them. But we are doing our best. I think we've come up with a fantastic plan in a matter of 3 weeks. The team has really come together. We've gotten approvals from the state. We've had people attending trainings, and I'm really excited about seeing this, our first responder clinic roll out this coming weekend.
Thank you, Kristen. If I could get this to navigate. Chief, you still with us? Did we lose the chief?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, okay, great. Unless we lost you again.
See. Well, just fine.
Chief, you are cutting in and out.
Voice for radio. Face for.
Looks like we need some new IT stuff in the fire station.
I mean,
Chief, you, there you go.
do you have me?
You got to call in, Chief.
Yeah, you may, Chief, you may be better off just calling in on the phone number listed on the agenda.
Yep.
Welcome.
Can we just mute Chief Partridge's video feed? There we go. And move his phone line into the panel.
Hello. Okay, let me. Give me one.
Chief, you're gonna want to pull yourself out of the video meeting on your computer altogether, or else it will echo back through your phone. Or mute the computer.
Connor, there could be a role for you in IT world.
Is that better?
That is much better. Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Okay.
Disadvantages. I no longer have you on the Zoom, so I can't see the slides. So I'll go by my hard copies here. But good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Haven't had the chance to see any of you, so
Thanks, Chief. Same to you.
glad to be here. And I want to thank Connor for his kind words, but echo that he and Mike Blanchard have been tremendous help to us getting all these things that we're pulling together up and running. So thank him for that. As was mentioned by Kristen, we've been working diligently the last few weeks to a month on getting our capabilities ramped up to be able to run our own vaccine clinic. And everything's in place for that. We should be receiving our doses of vaccine later this week. We are scheduled to begin delivery of the vaccine to our first responders this coming Sunday. the 17th, be a combination of both police and fire. The following day, we'll do another group on the 18th, and then the final day will be the 22nd. Part of the vaccine for police and fire also included Stonehill College with us. So we'll be doing a total of 80 vaccines across those 3 dates for our personnel. We're very fortunate to have had Dr. Crowley, who's been with us right from the get-go, helping us with various things from our protocols to training for our personnel. Again, he was instrumental in helping us pull together this piece of training that we needed to train all our people on the vaccine, why they should get it, what the side effects are, so they're educated enough to make that decision on getting the vaccine, as well as working with us on the training piece to allow our people to give the vaccine. The state did allow through their procedures to allow EMTs to be able to give the vaccine. So this week we're doing the final trainings to train all our, well, not all, probably half have signed up, half are paramedics to be able to give the vaccine to our people, as well as future clinics that we may run for phase 2 and phase 3 people. And we'll be in good shape. And then 28 days out from the initial dose, we're scheduled to plan the clinic to give everybody their second dose as well at that time.
Thank you, Chief. And so, as is typical, the Chief, I think, is being humble here. We're looking at having half of a 40-person fire and EMS department certified this week, and so we'll have 20 paramedics in Easton in our employ who are capable of not only administering COVID tests moving forward, but also administering vaccines. So as part of this process, Kristen mentioned that we have had a few weeks basically to pull this together. That included identifying at a request of the Department of Public Health for communities that did not have 200 of their own first responders. We were given the choice to find regional distribution channels or to form our own. And so Easton joined with the SEMRAC municipalities, Stonehill, and a couple of other communities to reach that dosage receipt threshold. We executed agreements with the Commonwealth and were certified and signed up to become an immunization site, which we were not prior to this. The Chief mentioned Service Medical Director Doc Crowley has been excellent. The infectious control officer for fire department, Tim Vamosi, has been excellent working with us as well. So not only educating first responders on the vaccine safety and their ability to get it through our own local clinic, but also training folks up so that they can be testing and administering vaccines and have EMA be ready, not only for this important first step for our first responders, but building our capabilities as we move forward. So thank you to the Chief. So moving into the next couple of phases, the Massachusetts coronavirus vaccine plan, phase 2 and 3, what do we know now and how will the public learn more? So phase 2, as Director Kennedy indicated, is currently estimated to begin at an unknown date in February. We have made it known through our policy committee seats that it's very important to municipalities that we get some advance notice of what those days are, and we know that the governor's administration is working diligently to keep us as informed as possible. But I believe Governor Baker was asked about this recently, and he, to his credit, I think, was pretty blunt and acknowledged that he is receiving 2 to 3 days notice from the federal government right now on how many vaccines the state will receive and where. So that makes it pretty difficult to have multi-week look forward. So I hope that will stabilize in the coming weeks as we head into phase 2. So that's slated to begin in mid-February. Director Kennedy noted as well that the priorities of the subgroups identified as in descending order of priority within those groups can be changed by the state and have been already. Our role as a municipal government is not yet determined by the state for phase 2 and 3. And we are staying in constant contact with them to determine what that role will be. Nonetheless, we are working to prepare all of our relevant capabilities so that we're as ready as we can be for any potential role in broader scale vaccination campaigns that may come down the pipe. And we'll get into that a little bit more in the next slide. We will use all of our normal communication platforms for eligible recipients for phase 2 and 3. So phase 2 includes individuals with 2+ comorbidities or folks over 75, early education, K-12 employees, public works employees, and more. So once we learn information from the Commonwealth, we will share that with everyone. And if we're going to be taking an active role in the distribution of those vaccines, we'll work directly either with those internal stakeholders, if it's part of a next stage of employee vaccination that we would run, like we're doing for first responders, as well as with the public, if they're for more public populations, using our website, ECAV, press, social media, and the town crier. Something the chief and the director touched on that has been very important with recipient groups is the component that education plays. And so anyone who's watching this, we really can't recommend strongly enough that you start to educate yourself on the vaccine now, including speaking to your primary care physician if you have any concerns, health concerns, before your group. If you're looking at this and you say, oh, hey, good, I'm on one of those groups in phase 2, educate yourself now, speak with your doctor now, so that when those vaccines do become available, and if the past 10 months educates us on the next 2 months, then you may not have a huge amount of notice when those vaccines become available. So you will want to have done your research and spoken with your doctor if you need to feel comfortable by then. You can visit mass.gov/COVID vaccine. They have all the information you could need, including FAQs about both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine and their safety. Kristen, is there anything you want to add on that note? Did we lose Kristen?
Sorry, I was muted. No, I think you've pretty much covered it. There's a lot of information out there. I would encourage people, just as you have, to start doing their research and stick to reputable resources. Make sure that the information you're reading is coming from a reputable source. That would be it.
So another topic worth covering, and Chief, if there's anything I miss here, please fill in. What is Easton and our emergency management agency doing to build capacity now in advance of phase 2 and 3 of this vaccine plan without knowing what our exact role is going to be? So part of that is being trained up and certified and signing the agreements and having the paperwork in place, for lack of a better way to frame it, with the Commonwealth, so that we are our own vaccine distributor. We have done that work. Vaccinations for first responders will start this weekend. That will be done using, with the exception of the service medical director, all municipal personnel with the expertise that we have in-house. We have paramedics, we have health directors, we have people with lots of knowledge, skills, and expertise that are able to contribute to ending this pandemic, and we intend to leverage that. We will, of course, as with any emergency operation, have an after-action review, and we'll build on the best practices and the lessons that we learn from our first responder vaccine campaign. And another piece of what we are doing to prepare for the next phases is testing out and building on our existing emergency capabilities. So specifically, we're going to launch this Saturday a community drive-through COVID test site in Easton, again, using, with the exception of the service medical director, all of our own personnel. This is not a state-sponsored Stop the Spread site. This is done in-house to demo our operational capabilities for larger scale registration and COVID-19 related operations. So one, it'll provide a public service. As you just saw, our numbers, like everyone else, are growing and growing and growing, and getting a test is not always easy for folks. So this is a cost-free way that they can get a test this weekend. And two, it proactively gives us the opportunity to test out larger scale COVID-related operations to prepare ourselves in the event that the Commonwealth does determine that municipalities can or should run community-wide vaccine clinics. So I can't stress enough for anyone watching at home, we don't yet know if the town of Easton will be running general population vaccine clinics. We hope to learn more in the coming weeks and months, but we are doing this now along with training up our personnel and getting the certifications we need in place in the event that that is what we're called on to do, that we're as ready as we can be to meet that call. Chief, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered in a nutshell, but in essence, we are going to be running these 2 clinics this weekend to prepare us for handling the larger population in phase 2 and 3. Obviously, we're using Frothingham for this clinic, but we may have to move to a larger venue once we start doing the town. And we're going to be able to take a look and decide whether we feel it would be more advantageous to do it by a drive-through component or having people physically, come into a facility. So those are the things that we're going to be looking at when we do our after action.
Thank you. So moving into the last piece of the presentation is to get into detail a bit for the public on what this drive-through testing pop-up, for lack of a better term, is and will look like. So I'd ask the assistant town administrator to take over. He did a lot of the work on the front end registration. That my understanding is we put a press release out about this an hour ago, and I think we're more than a third of our slots are already filled. So the demand is very clearly there. So Mike, could you just provide the board and the public with kind of an update on when and where and how people can participate in this clinic?
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. As Connor mentioned, the town will be offering a drive-through COVID-19 testing to Easton residents. It's going to take place this Saturday, which is January 16th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Fire Station number 3, which is at 413 Bay Road. Residents who would like to participate must register in advance to receive a test. A couple ways they can find the link to do that. The first is they can visit our homepage, easton.ma.us, and under the recent news items, you'll see a link for COVID testing. The other way is to visit our COVID-19 page directly, which is easton.ma.us/COVID-19, and there's a link there to register. The registration link will bring you directly to a Sign Up Genius page. For those of you not familiar with Sign Up Genius, it's a kind of a canned free software that we chose to use because it allowed us to set up a registration system with a very quick turnaround time. It allowed us to test it, make a few tweaks, and then get it live as soon as possible. As Connor just mentioned, the registration information has been shared starting this afternoon, and it'll continue to be shared during the week via press contacts, the website, social media, eCat, until all the spots are full. Registration is on a first come, and testing is on a first come, first served basis. We cannot accept drive-ups as we do have a limited number of tests available, so that's the purpose of the pre-registration. During this meeting, Connor, we've increased greatly. We're now at 58% of the slots are filled. So there's obviously a pretty big need. We have 40 slots still available if people are interested. When registering, residents will be asked to provide their contact information, health insurance information. There'll also be a reminder to please bring their ID and health insurance card with them to the clinic on Saturday so we can verify the information. And to be clear that while we will be accepting insurance information, no one will be turned away and will not be charged regardless of their insurance status or whether or not their insurance would cover the testing. Important to note, and this is kind of a limitation of the system, if you are registering multiple households for tests, you must register each individual and provide insurance information for each person on a separate registration slot. So even if you have 3 people from the same house all coming in the same vehicle, they must all individually register with their own email addresses in order for the system to recognize it, and also in order for us to have the information necessary to bill insurance and for them to receive their test results via email. When residents do arrive, they will be asked to stay in the car, wear a mask at all times, and follow the staff instructions when they arrive. When they pull in, they'll be directed where to do that. There'll be a pre-registration area, and they'll continue to be directed to the testing site and then out of the property as well. I think Connor may have mentioned this, as of right now, this test site is just a one-day plan. EMA will be kind of assessing the viability of this for future operations, depending on how Saturday goes. So do stay tuned, particularly if you're not available or if you're not able to get one of the slots if they do fill up. If people have questions or if they have any issues with the website or if not able to access the website, they can contact us with questions or for some help in two ways. One is they can email. The email address is covid19@easton.ma.us. Again, it's all one word, covid19@easton.ma.us. Or they can call our COVID-19 hotline, which is 508-230-0783, 508-230-0783. And they can leave a message there if it's not staffed at that time and someone will return the call.
So my last bit here is just to say thank you to everyone. There's a tremendous amount of work ahead of us and an incredible amount that remains to be done, but I'm heartened by the team we have here, by the board support, and we're going to keep working together to towards the common goal of ending the pandemic here and everywhere. And so we've been involved in a lot of these planning meetings with all these different departments and personnel. So I want to say thank you to our firefighters, police, service medical director, public works, board of health, and the Department of Health, all of our town personnel, elected and appointed folks helping advance these planning efforts. Thank you to the board and the board of select board and the board of health for supporting staff and our emergency response planners. And thank you to the schools who've been a really important partner with us and have worked really, really well with us throughout this crisis as well. So, and finally, thanks to the residents of Easton who've continued to have resiliency in the face of the pandemic and some really difficult times. And, hopefully this news is well received. We're doing everything we can around the clock to do our part here in Easton and protect families and residents here. And we ask that people do their part and continue to adhere to health guidance and make the right choices to protect themselves, their families, and the community. So that I'd be happy to answer any questions or Mike or Kristen, Kevin, or I that the board may have.
I just wanted to make a comment that I think a lot of people don't realize is that when the governor makes an announcement of a change, whether it's reopening restaurants and businesses or COVID tests or vaccinations, we learn about it pretty close to, if not in real time, when that's being announced, and then everybody has to scramble to make this happen. And so it seems pretty easy, like, well, the vaccines, you get them, you give them vaccines. It's just really surprising to me the amount of work that has to go on behind the scenes to make that run safely and efficiently, and things that I really had never thought about before. So really appreciate not only the skill and talent of everyone involved, but also their dedication to getting it done so quickly. And, I know that a lot of times that's nights, early mornings, weekends. And I know that our board really appreciates that. Any other comments?
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Being in the healthcare industry and having to watch an organization navigate the state, the local, the requirements, the certifications. Connor, I just have to say and give credit to the team for putting this all together so proactively, running the test clinic, so to speak, or testing site, getting the paramedics engaged and involved and signed up. I apologize that I don't have the words in a short amount of time to express for the audience and for everybody the amount of complexity, engagement, alignment that's required to make it happen. And I just want to commend you all for it. It is, once again, you've made something that is incredibly difficult and complex appear as if it's just standard and commonplace. And I suppose that's the way it is supposed to be for all the people. Regrettably, I think sometimes it obfuscates the very hard work and incredible efforts you all put forth. So just you're ahead of you stay ahead of the curve as much as possible, and I give you all credit for doing it.
Thank you.
I can't see anybody else's face because that last slide is still up. So if you're trying to talk,
Here we are.
oh, there we are.
Sorry.
Anyone else? Craig, do you have any comments or
I
questions?
just want to echo what Tom said, that this once again is an example of the quality of people that we have working in this town, and how much we appreciate the efforts that you and Kristen and Mike and the chief and all of the folks that work for you. This has not been an easy year, and we knew that the vaccines were coming, but we knew that it was going to be more difficult than people thought. And particularly when you look at the number of cases that have spiked over the last few months. And I get calls a lot from people saying, are you gonna take the vaccine when it comes available? And I say, absolutely, no question about it. So I think it's incredibly important, and remind people that even with the vaccine, you still should maintain social distancing and still maintain wearing masks until we defeat this pandemic. So thank you, Connor. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Kristen. We really appreciate all the work that you do. And to the people of town, please take this seriously, because it continues to be an issue going forward for quite a while now. So thank you.
Chuck, any comments?
No, I will, I appreciate the words that Tom had to say about tying in his own experience in the healthcare industry to what's happening. And I thank him for that. And more importantly, I thank Connor and the whole crew for what they've been doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. Mark?
Echo what everyone else said. Thank you and very well done.
I'm going to start calling on you first, Mark. I feel like you get the short end of the stick sometimes, being the last one.
I could just repeat what everyone else said, but you really don't need to. Thank you, genuinely.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Thanks for being here tonight, Chief and Kristen. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Kristen.
So next, we have town administrator notes, select board notes, and minutes. I'm going to skip over to the minutes first. We have the minutes of November 2nd and November 30th. Craig had noticed a typo in the minutes of November 2nd, so I would ask if somebody would like to make a motion to accept the minutes as amended for November 2nd.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Barger, Broussard,
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
and Full Janetti, yes. And then for the minutes of November 30th,
Barger.
Barger, yes.
Broussard.
Barger or Broussard? Back
King,
around.
yes.
Well, that was Barger and Broussard with the motion and the second, so we'll go back to the voting now. Craig?
Barger,
Okay.
yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
And Full Janetti, yes. All right, terrific. Town administrator notes, did you have anything else you wanted to add, Connor?
No, I have spoken enough.
Okay. Any select board notes? All right. Well, with that said, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session under Purpose 2 of Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, to conduct a strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, Town Administrator Connor Reed, to return to open session.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Barger, Broussard, and then we'll need a roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
And Full Janetti, yes. So we're going to log out of this meeting. We're going to log into the executive session meeting, and then we'll come back. See you, everyone.
Chuck beat Tom.
Wow.
Amazing.
And Kevin Partridge is back.
Wait a minute. Chuck never logged out from the previous session.
That's right.
I want a ruling.
All right, so everyone's back, and I just want to say that the board met in executive session, and we're pleased to report that we've reached an agreement to amend and extend the town administrator's contract to June 2025. This Wednesday is Connor's 4th anniversary in his role as town administrator. All his reviews have been exemplary. With Connor's leadership, Easton continues to be innovative and fiscally responsible in many areas. We will take this vote again in open session right now. So I move to approve the amended and extended contract with the town administrator as presented. Can I get a second?
Second, Barger.
And a roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb,
And
yes.
And full Janetti, yes. So thank you, everybody, for hanging in there tonight. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
And all in favor?
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. All right. Thank you, everyone. Great
Good
first
night.
Okay,
meeting of
everybody. Good to see you guys.
2021.
Bye-bye.
Healthy.
Thank you. Good night.